There's something deeply unsettling about the feeling of being watched, not by someone you can see, but by something you can't. You know that chill crawling up your spine when you swear you're alone, but your instincts scream otherwise? What if that wasn't just paranoia? What if the last shadow you see before bed isn't your own, and the moment you turn to face it is the last moment you'll ever have? This is a story about Olivia, a high school junior with no history of hallucinations, no tragic backstory, and no interest in the supernatural. She lived an ordinary life, until one night a shadow in her bedroom decided she wasn't allowed to sleep alone anymore. It started subtly, just the way all true horror begins. Olivia had a quiet room at the end of the hallway, with a single window that faced a fenced backyard and an old elm tree. Her room caught the soft golden light of dusk perfectly, and by night the moonlight would cast delicate shadows across her walls. She liked that. It made her room feel alive in a comforting way, but one night in early October, that comfort curdled into something else. She was lying in bed, scrolling through her phone, half asleep when she saw it, a shadow stretching along the far wall. It wasn't hers. She was sitting up, and this one moved as if someone were standing just behind her. She froze. At first, she told herself it had to be from outside, maybe the tree, maybe a passing car. But the shadow didn't move when she moved. She flicked on her bedside lamp. The shadow vanished. Olivia didn't sleep well that night. Over the next few days, it became a routine. She'd get ready for bed, turn off her lights, and within minutes the shadow would appear. It wasn't always in the same spot, but it was always there, lurking at the edge of her peripheral vision, never moving, never revealing its source, just watching. She tried everything, kept a nightlight on, covered the window, rearranged her furniture. She even asked her mom if she could sleep in the guest room for a few nights, blaming it on insomnia. Her mom didn't press. It was midterm season after all. But the guest room didn't help. The shadow followed her. It didn't stay in the corner anymore. On the fourth night, Olivia awoke to the unmistakable sensation of someone standing over her. Her body was paralyzed, not with sleep paralysis, but with pure terror. Her eyes darted to the ceiling where she saw it again. A dark, elongated silhouette, not cast by any light, stretching downward, toward her. She squeezed her eyes shut. It's not real. It's not real. But then, whispers, indistinct and cold. A voice like wind through a grave brushing her ear. Don't turn around. She screamed, bolting upright, and the shadow disappeared once more. Her mother came running. Bad dream, Olivia whispered, unable to say more. How could she explain something she didn't understand? The following day, she did something she never thought she would. She visited the school library's folklore section. She wasn't even sure what she was looking for, but something inside her was desperate, terrified. She found a book titled The Unseen, Manifestations of the Watchers, a dusty collection of obscure legends and documented hauntings. One section described a phenomenon eerily similar to hers: shadow presences, parasitic entities that form attachments through repeated exposure to liminal states of consciousness, like the edge of sleep. Olivia read on. Once noticed, the watcher cannot be unseen. It thrives on acknowledgement. Never face it, never name it, never turn around. Her stomach dropped. The line mirrored the whisper she'd heard. Don't turn around. That night, she didn't sleep. She kept the lights on, sat upright in bed with the book in her lap, like a shield. She tried to focus on her breathing, tried to convince herself it was just stress, just her mind playing cruel tricks. But somewhere around 3:17 a.m., the room dimmed. Not all at once, but slowly, as though the light itself was being drained. The bulbs in her lamp flickered, and then she saw it. Not a shadow this time, but a reflection. In her mirror across the room, there was a figure, tall, unmoving, blacker than black, a silhouette with no source, standing just behind her. She could feel the air around her change, grow heavy. Every instinct screamed to run, but her limbs felt like stone. Then came the whisper again, closer this time. "Don't turn around." Tears welled in her eyes, her hands trembled. She stared at her reflection, her own pale face washed in dread, and behind her the thing raised a single arm, toward her neck. A single thought echoed in her head. What happens if I turn around? You ever get that feeling, just as you're about to drift off to sleep, that you're not really alone? That strange chill even though the room is warm, the hairs on your arms rising for no reason, and in the corner of your vision, something moves, something dark. We've all seen shadows in our rooms at night, right? But what if one of them doesn't belong to you? And worse, what if it never leaves? It started last October when Emily, a 24-year-old graphic designer, moved into a small rental apartment just outside Portland. The place was old, a little dusty, but cheap, and with her student loans piling up, she didn't have much of a choice. The landlord was an elderly man with glassy eyes and a limp who handed over the keys without so much as a smile. His only warning: keep your curtains drawn at night. Every night. Emily thought it was an odd thing to say. Maybe he was just paranoid, or maybe he meant to keep out nosy neighbors. But that first night something felt off. The apartment was cold even with the heater on. The hallway light flickered constantly. And the bedroom? It had a strange draft, like the air was trying to breathe. She pushed the uneasy feeling aside and focused on unpacking. By 1 a.m., she collapsed onto her mattress with only one box left to open, her eyes heavy with exhaustion. That night, she dreamed of whispers. Soft, wet-sounding whispers that came from behind her headboard, though the wall led to nowhere. She woke in a cold sweat, gasping. The next night it happened again, but this time she wasn't dreaming. Lying in bed, Emily stared at the ceiling, unable to sleep. That's when she saw it, a movement in the corner of her eye. She turned, but there was nothing there, just shadows from the lamplight outside flickering through the blinds. Still, her heart raced. She couldn't shake the feeling she was being watched. She got up, checked every room, turned on all the lights. Nothing. Just an old apartment filled with silence. But when she returned to bed and turned off the lamp, she noticed something that made her skin crawl. There was a new shadow on the wall across from her bed. It was tall, unnaturally tall. The shape didn't belong to anything in the room. It was humanoid, almost, but its shoulders were crooked and its head was slightly tilted as if it was listening, watching. Emily froze. Her breath caught in her throat. She dared not move. Her mind raced for an explanation. Maybe it was a coat hanging on the door. Maybe the window blinds were casting a strange shape. But her closet door was closed, and her blinds weren't even moving. Then the shadow moved. Not fast, not sudden. Just a slow, deliberate twitch, like it was adjusting itself to get a better view of her. Her scream never made it past her lips. She shot up, turned on the light, and the shadow vanished. She didn't sleep the rest of the night. The following day, she called her best friend, Kara. "I think something's in my apartment," she said, voice trembling. Kara tried to reassure her. "Maybe it's just stress. Moving is a lot. New place, weird noises, you know. Our brains fill in the blanks." Emily agreed. Sort of. But deep down, she knew something was wrong. That night, she did what the landlord said. She shut all the curtains tight. Still, she couldn't relax. Every time she looked away from the wall, she thought she saw that shadow returning, just barely in the corner of her eye, as if it was waiting for her to forget, as if it knew she saw it. She slept with the lights on. By the fourth night, things escalated. At exactly 3:12 a.m., Emily woke to the sound of her bedroom door creaking open. The hinges groaned slowly, as if pushed by a hand that wanted to be heard. She sat up in bed, her body stiff with fear. Her door had been locked. She stared into the dark hallway beyond the doorframe. There was nothing there, but when she turned her eyes back to the wall, there it was again. The shadow. Closer now. It no longer loomed on the far wall, but stretched across the floor, its long fingers reaching toward the bed. The air around her felt suffocating, thick like it was being shared by something else. Her ears began to ring, and a single thought carved itself into her brain like a knife. Because now, it was behind her. She could feel it, breathing, cold, rotten air pressing against the nape of her neck. She squeezed her eyes shut, praying she was still dreaming, that when she opened them, it would be gone. But she didn't wake up. Instead, a voice, low and crackling like radio static, whispered just inches from her ear. "You saw me." Emily screamed and leapt from the bed, knocking over a lamp. She turned, ready to fight, but there was nothing there, just an empty room. But the shadow on the wall still lingered. Only now it smiled. They say when you're alone in your room, every creak, every flicker of light, every whisper of the wind becomes a presence. But what if one of those shadows never belonged to you in the first place? This isn't a campfire tale. It happened to someone who lived to tell it. Barely. Keep your eyes forward, and whatever you do, don't turn around. Tyler wasn't superstitious. At 26, with a degree in architecture and a solid job in a downtown firm, he didn't have time for ghost stories. He moved into his new apartment in late September, a studio unit on the third floor of an old brownstone in Chicago's Logan Square. The building had that vintage charm, exposed brick, creaky floorboards, clawfoot tub. But there was something else, something harder to pin down. The landlord had offered him a month's rent off if he moved in quickly. "Previous tenant left in a hurry," he explained, tapping the lease with a chipped fingernail. "Didn't even take all her stuff." Tyler didn't care. The place was affordable and close to work. He moved in the next day, unpacked fast, and threw the leftover junk, a dusty mirror, an old coat rack, and a strange small rocking chair, into the hallway for donation. The first night was uneventful, quiet, too quiet. He chalked it up to moving stress. But by the third night, things started to feel off. It began with a sound, barely audible, a slow, steady creak, like floorboards shifting under weight. He figured it was the old bones of the building. But when he sat up in bed and turned on the lamp, nothing was there. The air felt heavier, though, like someone had just walked out of the room. The next night, as he brushed his teeth, he noticed something strange in the mirror. A shadow. Not his own. It was too tall, and the shoulders were too broad. He turned quickly, heart hammering. Nothing behind him but the shower curtain, slightly swaying. "Get a grip," he muttered. But the unease grew. Each night the creaking came back. Closer, slower, like someone pacing. One night, as he lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, he realized the shadow in the corner wasn't moving with the light from the street lamp outside. It just stayed there, still, watching. The room was dim, but not dark. His lamp cast a soft glow across the walls. Tyler sat up slowly, eyes locked on the shadow. It didn't make sense. There was nothing in that corner to cast a shadow. No furniture, no shelf, just an empty wall. He stared for what felt like hours. Eventually, he fell asleep from exhaustion, shadow still frozen in place. When he woke up, it was gone. Tyler started sleeping with all the lights on. Friends noticed he looked tired, withdrawn. He stopped inviting people over. Something about the apartment made him feel like he was being watched all the time. One night he couldn't sleep at all. He lay in bed, listening. The creaking returned, but this time it didn't stop. It circled the bed. Software measured, deliberate. He didn't move. He didn't breathe. Then silence and a whisper, right next to his ear. "You're in my room." Tyler bolted upright, heart pounding so hard it hurt. No one was there. But the air was freezing. Every breath he exhaled clouded in front of him. He grabbed his phone. The screen lit up, and for a split second, just a second, he saw it. Behind him in the camera, a figure. Tall, thin, shoulders too broad, head tilted like it was trying to understand him. He didn't dare turn around. He leapt out of bed and ran to the bathroom, slamming the door behind him. The mirror was fogged up from the cold. He stood there, staring at his reflection, waiting. Then it appeared. Slowly, behind the mist, a shape forming next to his own in the mirror. Its face was smooth, featureless, but its shadow was darker than anything he had ever seen. He couldn't scream. He couldn't even move. And then it whispered again, "You can't see me, unless I want you to." That night he didn't sleep. He left before sunrise and never went back. He broke his lease, moved cities, got a roommate, and for a while he thought he was safe. But shadows don't belong to places. They belong to people.